I get overwhelmed so easily. My anxiety creeps inside of me, makes it hard to breathe. What's come over me feels like I'm somebody else.
Hello guys. This is the Orange Hokage here, and today, we are doing the last part of What If Naruto Was Suicidal. Make sure you check the description for the original creator's story, and now let's get right into the story. Naruto and Hinata had just arrived at the Hyuga estate with Hayashi waiting for them. "How was the picnic?" asked Hayashi, hoping to at least hear some good news. "We enjoyed the picnic, father," said Hinata as she lightly squeezed Naruto's hand. Naruto even told the others of his secret. He was very nervous at first, but the others gladly accepted him and recognized him as a hero. Hayashi nodded, as it was good to hear that there were others that would accept the young blonde. Unfortunately, the boy's wounds still have a lot of healing to do, thought the Hyuga head as he watched Hinata pour Naruto some tea, but somehow I know that Hinata will greatly help him with his troubles. While Hinata, Neji, and Naruto were away, Hayashi had ordered the servants to remove all sharp objects and locked certain cabinets to avoid any attempts should they arise. He had also assigned a few servants to keep an eye on Hanabi to ensure that she doesn't try anything and harm Naruto. Last thing we need is a Hyuga sabotaging her own father and sister just to satisfy those damnable civilians' wishes, Hayashi thought, as could only imagine not only the shame but the chaos that could happen upon the boy's death. Just gives me a migraine and more guilt from just thinking the possibilities. In the marketplace, Sakura was slowly eating some dango as she thought about what Naruto had said. "Naruto holds the dreaded nine-tailed fox that almost destroyed our home," Sakura thought as she took another bite of the treat. Now all of those pranks and happy-go-lucky feeling makes sense after seeing his life. He hides his pain away through all of those pranks and fake smiles. Getting a look at all the happy faces that she could see, Sakura could only feel disgusted with everyone around her at the thought of those happy faces hid such cruel monsters. "This dango is really good," said a familiar voice as the pink-haired girl was startled out of her seat as Shino Tenshai was sitting next to her. "WWW, what are you doing here?" asked Sakura as she gathered her courage to speak to the Angel of Death. "Why does no one else see you?" The angel took a bite of the sweet and said, "Well, it is my job to see to all the deaths possible in the world, and the reason why no one but you see me is because a genjutsu that only Kami herself can dispel is on us. People who happen to see us will only see you go about your day." "Why are you here?" Sakura asked as she got to her feet. "Naruto's life is getting better so that other future will not happen, right?" After eating the last bite, Shino Tenshai picked his teeth with a wooden needle and said, "True that future doesn't exist anymore, but..." Sakura watched in slight fear as the wooden needle rotted away into nothing before the angel got to his feet and coolly said, "Just because one future is avoided doesn't mean that more will not take its place. As I have said when we had first met, I am but a representation of the possibilities of Naruto's future. I am a simple accident, a simple zig instead of zag moment. Even a small sliver of possible death in Naruto's future, and all I do is wait until the time is right." A chill ran down Sakura's spine as she heard the angel's sickening cackle. This was no angel, but instead a sick child who enjoys tormenting smaller creatures. "I know what you are thinking, Sakura," said Shino Teshi with a sickly sweet smile on his face, "but I only torment the boy because I want him to break." Horrified, the Rosette said, "Break? What do you mean by break? Naruto is already broken and he's recovering." Letting out a joyful sigh, the angel said, "Like you have thought of me, I am but a child who is just playing with his toys. But I am one of those children who love to play with their toys with such cruel joy that I end up breaking them, and I am also the child who purposely destroy their toys in order to get something new and shiny. Naruto just happens to be my new toy and I want him to break. Just like Tsukumo did." "Tsukumo?" asked Sakura as the name sounded familiar, as in the white fang of the leaf. The angel smiled and said, "Ah, what fun I had with breaking him. All the nightmares, guilt, and the alcohol. On the alcohol was so much fun as I can manipulate the world around Tsukumo to make him even more depressed. What really brought out my smile was when the knife was rammed into his stomach as he cut himself open. It was like watching a pig getting gutted. You see all the blood and guts before you see the good out of the death. Although, I did have to wait a good while before I got Naruto." "You monster," said Sakura as she grabbed Shino Tenshai's coat, "how could you take such pleasure out of making someone miserable to the point of having them kill themselves?" An immense wave of killing intent paralyzed Sakura as the angel carefully pried the Rosette's hands off of his coat. "Okay, first off, No touching my threads, said the angel as it adjusted the coat, and secondly, as I mentioned before, I am but a child who plays with their toy until it breaks and gets a new toy, only to break it and have it replaced. It's a never-ending paradox as I only throw away the toys that bore me and find a new toy to play with, and right now, Naruto is very interesting and he's been entertaining me throughout his 13 years with all of his other suicide attempts and thoughts. Before she could react, Sakura grabbed her head as it pulsed while she witnessed some of Naruto's suicide attempts and thoughts raped her skull. Kami, please kill me. Why do I continue like this? How long will this torment last? I just want to lie down and die. No one will ever love a monster like me. Shino Tenshai watched as Sakura passed out from the pain and suffering injected into her mind. Remember this, Sakura Haruno, said the angel as it began to walk away. Even if one possible future is erased, more will take its place like a bad plague. Before vanishing away, the angel stole the last dango from Sakura's plate as a woman approached the fallen Haruno and getting a nearby tuna to take the girl to the hospital. At the Hyuga estate, Hanabi was reading everything she could about the sealing art as her sister had instructed. Even though she finds such an art useless, unless teaching any branch member their place, Hanabi did learn that if the object that had an item sealed inside of it were to be destroyed in some manner, the object sealed inside would be released in the condition that it was in when it was sealed. But the nine-tailed fox is a living thing, not an inanimate object, the girl thought as a theory popped into her head, so instead of being released into that state that it was in, the demon fox will follow Naruto straight to hell where it belongs should that monster perish. Hanabi began to create plans on how to end the nine-tailed fox's reign on Konoha, oblivious to an invisible force watching her from behind with a wicked grin on its face. A week had passed since the picnic and learning the truth about the nine-tailed fox, and Sakura was waiting outside the door that leads to the Hyuga estate. Okay Sakura, you can do this, the Rosette thought to herself as she tried to calm down her nerves. Naruto has hopefully had enough time to cool off and recover, so this shouldn't be a problem. Right? Hell if I know, said inner Sakura as she shrugged her shoulders, for all I know is that you wouldn't have to be doing this if you were nicer to him. Sakura hung her head slightly as her inner self was right and all of this could have easily been avoided if she didn't act like a troublesome brat. Sakura raised her head as she gathered her courage and resolve and rang the bell. She stood there for a few minutes until the door opened to reveal one of the servants. At least she thought it was one of the servants. Greeting Haruno-san, said the Hyuga woman as she examined the girl, how may I help you? Sakura took a deep breath and said, I was wondering if Naruto was around so I can talk to him and apologize for what I've done. The Hyuga woman nodded and said, please wait a moment, Haruno-san, I must ask Lord Hayashi and Lady Hinata. The servant shut the door and it wasn't until 15 minutes later that the door opened to reveal the same servant as she motioned Sakura to follow her. This way, Haruno-san, said the servant as she led the Rosette to a room where the other female servants were waiting. What's this about? Asked Sakura with slight fear. Please pardon us should we make you feel uncomfortable, said the first servant, but since we are responsible for Naruto-san's well-being, we must take all precautions to ensure his safety. We will first examine you to see if you have any weapons on your person and confiscate them before we ask you to change into these robes. Sakura watched as the Hyuga maids used their byakugan. Another maid brought out a white and green robe. After finding no weapons on the girl, the maids helped Sakura change into the provided robes before the first maid motioned the Rosette to follow her again. Sakura followed the maid silently until she reached a living room where Hayashi, Hinata, and Naruto were sitting around the table drinking tea. Haruno-san, milord, said the servant as she exited the room while Sakura took a seat in front of the trio before her. GG greetings, Hyuga-san, said Sakura as she tried to keep her courage up, how is everything? Hayashi took a small sip of tea before he said, everything is alright for the moment. I do apologize for the increase in security measures, but please understand that there might be a possibility of Naruto''s condition getting in the public and we must ensure his safety. Sakura nervously sat silently for a few minutes before finding her voice again. I arrived here, said Sakura as she swallowed a lump in her throat, to talk to Naruto. If possible. Hayashi and Hinata looked at the blonde in question as he asked, what do you wish to talk about? The tone in Naruto's voice chilled Sakura as it sounded emotionless instead of the happy-go-lucky wonder and curiosity or even excitement that the blonde had spoken before. It was completely unnatural, weird and wrong. Said Sakura as she kept herself from looking away in guilt. I wish to apologize to you, Naruto, about how I acted at the party. And it's not just that, I also wanted to apologize to you about how I have been treating you after we had become teammates. Sakura could feel the tears forming in the corner of her eyes as she looked at her memories of beating the blonde senseless and bringing him down without even knowing the whole truth. I should have been the proper teammate and the proper friend for you, said Sakura as a few tears rolled down her face, but instead all I did was hurt you both physically and emotionally without even giving you a single chance. I'm sorry and I'll try to be a better friend, a better teammate. I'll even take you out on a date if you like to. Please. It has been very painful for me to lament on my sins against you, and your tone just makes it worse for me as I know that I did this to you. If I had only been nicer, if I hadn't been the rotten bitch that I was. We would have the old happy-go-lucky Naruto instead of this fearful and depressed Naruto. We know. I want the sunshine that only you could bring back in not just my life, but everyone else's as well. Sakura got up before she kneeled down on the floor and bowed, tears pouring madly from her eyes. Please. She begged with desperation, please forgive me and bring back the Naruto that we all love. Naruto stole a glance towards the two Hyugas next to him to see that neither Hinata nor Hayashi had anything different about them. He was also looking for guidance from the two to see what he should do. Even if they wanted to voice their opinion about what to do with the girl, said the nine-tailed fox, the most important opinion is yours, Naruto. You could either forgive her or completely disown her. Personally, I would only treat her as just some person on the team and only trust her that far, but ultimately this has to be your decision. Naruto stayed silent as he gave the fox's words some thought while looking at Sakura, who still had her face towards the floor. Naruto sighed as he reached his decision and got up from his seat before walking towards the rosette. Sakura heard the footsteps stop near her, but she didn't dare look as she was afraid of not only looking as desperate as she was now, but also of the verdict. Haruno-san, said Naruto in a calm, stoic tone, I do wish to forgive you. But I'm afraid that I can't do it that easily anymore. Hayashi and Hinata could have both sworn that Sakura's neck had popped from how fast she raised it to see the look of shock and devastation. I easily forgave you many times in the past because I was too stubborn to see that I was a fool for not only having a pathetic crush on you, Naruto said with bone-chilling coldness, and I am not sure if I should even think of forgiving you as a teammate after all the times I have tried to help you, from simply just talking to you or even risking my own safety to save a girl that doesn't care about me and only uses me as her personal punching bag for whatever reason. Please understand that I am not doing this because I feel nothing from you but the complete opposite, said Naruto as a few tears fell from his face. Being alone and being tricked and treated like crap by almost everyone had taught me how to read people's faces and emotions. That was mostly me, Kit. I can see the pain you're in and it even pains me as well, Naruto continued, but I just don't think I can forgive you as easily as before, and I can't go on a date as I have already found someone that will always be there for me as not only the rock that I need, but the loving girlfriend that I would love to have for the rest of my life and who will love me for me. I am truly sorry about all of this. Haruno-san. Everything around her was frozen solid as Sakura watched everything shatter before her eyes. The Naruto that everyone loved, the ball of sunshine, one of the funniest people in the village. Hell. Even the most powerful and the most unpredictable ninja the village was gone from her world, and it's all because of me, Sakura thought to herself as she saw the visible pain in Naruto's eyes. I drove Naruto, one of my most loyal of friends, away because I treated him like everyone had. Like an outcast. Why did I have to be so mean to him when all he had done is try to be my friend even if he already was? Sakura continued to mentally lament until she heard something fall from the other side of the door. Burn in hell for all eternity, you fucking monster. Sakura felt pain in her stomach as she found herself in the hospital as the bright lights shone in her eyes. What happened? The Rosette thought as she tried to look back at what had happened and putting the pieces back together. She remembered being at the Hyuga estate and bowing in front of Hayashi, Hinata, and Naruto, the apology and the rejection. She then remembered Hanabi charging in with a kunai ready to stab Naruto with a killing look on her face. That's right, said Sakura as she pushed the bedsheet far enough to expose her bandaged stomach from where she was stabbed. I took that attempt on his life for him. Yes, Sakura, said Tsunade as she entered the room and pulled the curtain near Sakura's bed. "I was told by Hayashi how you arrived and apologized to Naruto when Hanabi rushed in to attack Naruto. You jumped in the way and took a kunai to the stomach. Luckily we were able to repair the damages and you can leave within a few hours." Sakura looked to the nearby table to see a bouquet of flowers and a small note next to it. "Those flowers are from Naruto," said Tsunade as she unwrapped the bandages to expose Sakura's stomach to reveal a jagged scar above the belly button. He said that those are a token of his thanks for delaying the inevitable for who knows how long. "What do you mean?" Sakura asked as the woman's hand began to glow. "While he is glad that you saved his life, Sakura," said Tsunade as she examined the scar and checked for lasting injury, "Naruto knows that he will eventually die, be it by age, battle, or even an assassination. What he doesn't know is that Uzumakis have an increased lifespan to where Naruto's grandchildren will have grandchildren. I should know as my grandmother was Mito Uzumaki." Sakura was completely stunned as there were once more Uzumakis as she asked, was there in Uzumaki clan? Tsunade nodded as she continued, "Yes, there once was, but they had to scatter all around the world when their home, Uzushiage-kure, was destroyed during one of the ninja wars. They were experts in the sealing arts and have rarely shared their talent and secrets to those outside. The Shiki fusion was actually given to my grandfather as a wedding present as the clan head saw that Gigi was strong enough to use its power. To think that all of these dumbasses wouldn't realize that Naruto is from the one clan that gave us our spiral-shaped symbol." After seeing no further damage, Tsunade wrapped Sakura's stomach with fresh bandages as she said, "Naruto is willing to give you one last chance seeing how you saved his life, but he's still not ready to fully forgive you." Tsunade pulled the curtain back as the rosette then asked, "What's going to happen to Hanabi?" The Hokage let out a sigh as she said, "For attacking a fellow shinobi, the sentence is either death or imprisonment, but considering that she is not only from a clan but underaged, so we had to do something else." Hayashi, as both the father and head of the Hyuga clan, had asked Jiraiya to seal Hanabi's Byakugan and chakra until the girl understands the difference between a scroll and the kunai it holds. They even added a little extra to ensure that the girl understands the horrors that Naruto faces every day. Sakura shivered at the thought of a child like Hanabi going through what Naruto had to go through, but she relented as it hopefully wouldn't be too long until Hanabi opens her eyes. In Naruto's apartment, Naruto looked at himself in his less than appealing bathroom mirror and wanted to glare his reflection to death. "It's your fault," Naruto said with a scowl as he edged closer to his reflection. "Were it not for you, I wouldn't have to suffer like this as father, and that damned Sannin had sealed not only my chakra, but my Byakugan with it, and even used a seal to force me into looking like you vile demon." Hanabi couldn't help but cringed at the amount of venom there was behind Naruto's voice. It held such malice that even the coldest of criminals would freeze from the tone. Her body, underneath the transformation, was covered in bruises, and she could have sworn that she had a few broken ribs as well after receiving a beating from the villagers. "Don't those bastards know about the punishment for attacking a shinobi?" Hanabi thought to herself as she tried to find medical supplies but found not even a single bandage. "Doesn't that monster have any medical supplies?" Hanabi asked as she stormed out of the bathroom and went towards the kitchen. She opened the fridge, grabbed a carton of milk, and opened it before she was assaulted by the sight of what she saw. "Disgusting!" Hanabi had to resist shouting as she saw that the milk was way beyond the expiration date and threw it away. How does he live on that disgusting ramen throughout his life? Hanabi had finally decided to have one of the cups of ramen and was thinking to herself as she waited for the noodles to cook. Maybe that's all he could get, since any amount of food he touches would just rot within seconds, Hanabi said with a scowl on her face. Once the ramen finished, Hanabi grabbed the pot only to get burned as she wasn't used to caring for her own and having servants handle all of the chores. "Ow, damn it!" Hanabi cried as she rushed towards the sink and turned the faucet on to place her hands in the running water. But again her burns were made worse as the water was boiling hot. After using the expired milk to cool her hands, Hanabi grumbled as the wounds on Naruto's hands had just vanished before her eyes, but she knew that it was just the illusion of the genjutsu placed over her as he imagined her hands being a reddish pink. Hanabi had decided to enter Naruto's room and was assaulted by the sight of how the room looked: dilapidated floors, furniture worn beyond their use, and a smelly blanket over an old mattress. The Hyuga sighed as she tore the old blanket to make makeshift bandages for her hands and questioned what she had done to deserve such a fate. It was nighttime at the Hyuga estate and Naruto found himself unable to sleep as he felt weird, him sleeping next to a girl who actually loves him, not sleeping in his old dilapidated apartment, and even laying on an actual soft bed. It all felt weird for some reason. Being careful not to wake Hinata, Naruto edged himself out of the bed and silently put on the robes that were provided for him before walking out of the room. The blonde journeyed through the halls until he reached a small pond with a bridge running over it. It all feels like a dream, Naruto thought as he walked on the bridge and leaned over the railing to look at his reflection in the water beneath, like I could just wake up back in my apartment and none of this had ever happened. Naruto? Asked a voice as the blonde turned to see Neji holding a lantern approaching him. Neji, Naruto asked with a bit of shock, what are you doing up? Neji stopped next to Naruto and said, I have the night guard shift for tonight. What about you? Are you feeling alright? The blonde let out a depressed sigh and said, I don't know. Everything just feels so weird, like all of this is just a dream and I'll just wake up back in my apartment and none of this had ever happened. The Hyuga branch member looked at Naruto with shock before relenting as he thought of himself in the blonde's shoes. Everything would just look like a dream and the end could just be right around the corner with everything returning to normal. Neji closed his eyes as he placed the lantern down and felt his spirit lift as he opened his mouth. I used to think that I could not go on. And life was nothing but an awful song. But now I know the meaning of true love. I'm leaning on the everlasting arms. If I can see it. If I can do it. If I can believe it. There's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I could touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Naruto was hypnotized by Neji's voice as it was completely different than his normal stoic tone. The blonde was also hypnotized by the painful, yet comforting emotion behind those words as Neji continued to sing. See, I was on the verge of breaking down. Sometimes silence can seem so loud. There are miracles I must achieve. But first I know it starts inside me. If I can see it. If I can be it. If I just believe it. There's nothing to it. I believe I can fly. I believe I could touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. Unknown to the two, Hayashi and Hinata were watching them while listening to Neji sing towards Naruto. I never knew Neji had such a wonderful voice, Hinata thought as she was entranced by her cousin's angelic voice. Hayashi hid the pain he felt behind his stoic face as he thought of his twin brother, Hisashi, who had died in his stead to prevent a war from breaking out. He had dearly missed his younger sibling and he couldn't help but feel so guilty about having his brother throw away his life just to protect him. Even after all the horrible acts Hayashi had done to his brother. If I can see it. Then I can do it. If I just believe it. Then I can do it. I believe I can fly. I believe I could touch the sky. I think about it every night and day. Spread my wings and fly away. I believe I can soar. I see me running through that open door. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. I believe I can fly. After Neji finished the song, the sounds of clapping hands alerted the two to Hayashi's and Hinata's presence and saw the smiles on their faces. Lord Hayashi. Lady Hinata. Neji said with shock in his voice, please forgive me if I had disturbed you, I was just helping Naruto-san and… That is enough, Neji, said Hayashi as he raised a hand to Neji that it was alright, I was up working on some paperwork anyway when I heard your voice. Neji looked at Hinata as the girl said, I noticed Naruto-kun was missing and I was about to look for you when I heard your voice, just like father had. Hinata lightly dashed towards her cousin and gave him a comforting hug, surprising Neji into confusion as he didn't know what to do. After Hinata had let go of him, Neji then saw Naruto gently hug him with tears in his eyes. Thank you, said Naruto with a smile on his face as tears gently rolled down his face. Neji slowly brought a hand to Naruto's back and gently rubbed the blonde's back. The hug ended as Naruto rubbed the tears out of his eyes and walked towards Hinata with red tired eyes and a yawn. How about we head on back to bed? Hinata offered as Naruto followed her through the halls with a happy look on his worn face. "Good night, Lady Hinata, Naruto-san," Neji said as he picked up the lantern. "I shall return to my rounds, Lord Hayashi. I bid you a good night." Hayashi nodded as he traveled down the halls towards his room while Neji continued his rounds with a smile on his face as the song still echoed in his mind. "I hope that you truly recover from this, Naruto-san," Neji thought as he walked through the halls with his spirit lifted. "You do not know how much you really mean to everyone around you." Sakura was in her room as she was preparing to head towards bed as her mind was still on Naruto. The blonde had thanked her for saving his life, even if it sounded a bit pessimistic in his view, but Sakura couldn't help but feel that she was starting to make some progress with getting the Naruto everyone loves. She was saddened that Naruto hadn't completely forgiven her, but she knew that road would soon be crossed in the near future. But Sakura couldn't help having a feeling that Shino Tenchi was out there, planning more misery for her teammate. Misery that Naruto didn't need. Sakura then looked at her reflection in the mirror as she stood there in her underwear. Staring at that long, jagged scar on her stomach. Not wanting to see the offending mark, Sakura put on her nightgown and as she finished her preparations for bed she said, "I wish there was a way that all of this could have been avoided." Cold wind blew in the room as the windows were forced open and a chilling voice entered the room. "I can help you with that," said Shino Tenchi as he appeared just sitting on the window ledge with a coy smirk on his face. "Sakura-chan." Sakura stood in her nightgown and stared at the angel of death that was casually sitting on the windowsill in her room. "What do you want?" the rosette asked venomously as she was growing tired of the angel's face. "Oh, I try to be nice and give you an offer that you would most likely want, and here you are, talking to me like I'm fucking Orochimaru's even more psychotic and disturbing twin," Shino Tenchi ranted before smirking. "I like that. I honestly love it when the ladies talk to me like that." Why you mentioned an offer," Sakura quickly stated in hopes of changing the subject. "Ah yes, that," the angel said, feigning a tone of realization. "I am here to offer you a chance to fix everything." The rosette blinked in confusion before Shino Tenchi continued, "Using my near-godly powers, I can send you back in time to one specific moment, like let's say your past birthday, and you will be allowed to change only one thing, not two, but one thing on that date to however you like it. Use it to prevent Naruto from going to your birthday party, apologize, whatever you wish. But..." Shino Tenchi purposely let the sentence hang as he could feel the dread from the girl. "But..." the angel continued with a coy smirk, "I want you to get me something before you are sent back here. Well, here as in you're here." Sakura gulped as she asked, What do you want?" Shino Tenchi gave the girl a jagged toothy smile as he said, "You see, I'm one who not only gives misery. But I'm also one who feeds of misery, and I know a sweet way to get what I want. I want Naruto. I want him to be my Jinchuriki, not that fox." Shino Tenchi casually walks towards Sakura before he said, "All you have to do is have a nice, long kiss with the boy, and through that kiss, I will be sealed inside of Naruto instead of the fox." Sakura backed away a couple of steps as she gathered the courage to ask, "What of the fox? What will happen to it?" The angel scoffed and said, "Who cares about a living mass of chakra, since the nine-tailed fox was the one that fucked this place up and robbed them of their families and one of their greatest heroes. I mean, the fox had to have escaped in order to be sealed in Naruto in the first place, so why not free him from the burden of being a Jinchuriki to one of the tailed beasts? It's a win-win for everyone. You get the ball of sunshine back in your life, Naruto would no longer be carrying the fox that damned his life since birth, and I get a Jinchuriki of my own. See, everybody wins." "Not everybody," said Sakura with a stern look on her face. "Naruto would still be a Jinchuriki with you instead of the fox." Shino Tenchi carelessly shrugged as he said, "PFFT. So what if the boy's still a Jinchuriki? I don't really fucking care as my power grows through misery, thus making Naruto a force that even the highest of ranked shinobi would piss themselves from just mentioning the boy's name alone." The angel got no answer from the rosette before he hung his head in frustration. "Alright, fine." Shino Tenchi as he crossed his arms in agitation, "To show you that I can be honorable and a good sport, I will give you 1 whole week to sit and think on it. But when that week ends..." The angel twisted his wrist as timer appears and continued, "When that week ends, when the buzzer of this timer goes off, I have to have a decision, or else I'll just take Naruto by force as I want him as my Jinchuriki, even if I have to unleash the very ten-tailed beast itself so I could have the boy." He will be my Jinchuriki. One way, or another. Shino Tenshai pressed a button on the timer as the clock began to count down while he said, "I'll see you in a week, Sakura-chan." After the angel of death vanished, Sakura fell back onto her bed as the angel's offer echoed in her skull. 1 whole week to decide, Sakura thought as she stared at her ceiling. I can either go back in time to correct everything, or just let things be. I say we tell that so-called angel that he can take that offer and shove it up his ass. Inner Sakura said as she knew something was fishy. With an offer like that, there's bound to be someone getting the short end of the stick here. Yeah, Sakura thought as she debated with her inner self, but if we refuse, then who knows how long it will take for Naruto to completely trust us again. We only have one last chance left. You seriously aren't thinking about taking that bastard's offer, Ryu? Inner Sakura screamed, dumbfounded by what her outer self was saying. Someone's going to fucking lose if you take his offer. Look, just get some shut-eye and we'll think on it. We have a week, so we still have some time to debate over this. Night. Sakura let out a sigh as she soon got under the covers, knowing that her inner self had a good idea. Maybe some rest will help the Rosette mull over her decision. Hanabi jolted awake in pure horror from the nightmare she had gone through and her body was violently shivering from the thought of it. That nightmare. I was. Hanabi thought as she quickly dashed towards the bathroom and tossed her head into the toilet before puking her guts up. After finishing the ordeal with a few flush breaks, Hanabi staggered to the kitchen to see a small box of band-aids and a note. The disguised Hyuga carefully moved her way to the table and picked up the note as it said. Hanabi. If you're reading this, then that means you've just experienced some of Naruto's usual nights as well as all of his birthdays and a few holidays in the form of dreams. I will put it bluntly, yes Hanabi, Naruto has been raped by these despicable things. Time and time again. Amazing how well he hides it. You have nothing to worry about those dreams coming true as Tsunade and I have watched over you. Tsunade had also healed your wounds so that you don't die from them as Naruto's life in the village was always a game of chance where should Naruto lose he dies, either by the village's hands or his own. We also gave you the box of band-aids to show you the little support Naruto has had before and even after becoming a full-fledged ninja. This punishment will last until you truly get a grasp of what Naruto goes through. Yes, you will continue having those nightmares every single night until you see and understand Naruto's day-to-day life and mean it. People really don't know that they take everything for granted until it's all gone. They can deny it or blame it all on someone else, most likely Naruto, but people need to understand that there are others who are not as privileged as they are. There are children who have no toys, mothers who cannot bear children, old warriors that have no home to go back to or even have something to fall back on after their career as a ninja ends, and people who lose their friends to hatred. It's no secret that I once considered Orochimaru as very close friend and even a rival that only I can have. But sadly that Orochimaru had died some time ago. I had even begged and pleaded for them to come back, even making myself look like a groveling idiot, but sadly my friend. The only person that I alone knew that understood my need to be the best is gone. Gone forever. I sometimes dreamed that everything that had happened was just a dream and the Orochimaru I knew was here in Konoha. But that's all that it would ever be. Wishful dreams and regretful wishes. Please. Just open your eyes and see the truth before you. Jiraiya, Toad Sannin. P.S. By the time you look away from this letter, it will crumble into dust and vanish in the wind, so don't bother trying to keep it. Hanabi dropped the note and true to Jiraiya's words, it crumbled into dust before the particles flew away by an unforeseen current of wind. But she didn't care about that as her mind returned to that horrid dream she had and knew that she didn't have anyone to turn to in her time of need, no friend to turn to, no father to lecture her back into her normal mindset. But worst of all, no Hinata to coddle her. It was no secret to Hanabi that her older sister would sometimes enter her room at night to comfort the younger sibling when she had a nightmare or even just let her presence and love be known. Hanabi curled into the floor as an empty feeling took over her as she realized something. She was now alone with no one to go to in her time of need. Snap out of this, Hanabi, the disguised Hyuga scolded herself, you can't let yourself lose like this. Those fools are only trying to psych you out. Jiraiya could never be close friends to a vile monster like Orochimaru. Hanabi steeled her resolve as she continued to tough out this punishment like how she was taught. But, Hanabi couldn't help but feel a sense of despair from her words as something inside of her was screaming for love and comfort. Morning had arrived at the Hyuga estate as Hinata was waiting just outside the bathhouse of the Hyuga clan, mentally cursing whoever placed seals on the inside to prevent her from taking a peek. In order to check on Naruto. Even if it was for a good means, Hinata knew that those seals not only gave the person inside privacy but for someone who is on suicide watch. Naruto-kun, Hinata asked as she knocked on the door. Naruto-kun, are you alright? She heard eerie silence until the Hyuga heard Naruto say, yeah, I just zoned out for a moment, everything's good. Hinata knew that Neji's song had helped Naruto, but she really didn't want to chance what could happen. Hinata was about to ask the nearby male servant when the door opened to reveal Naruto in some of the clothes Neji had provided him. Almost fell asleep again, said Naruto as he chuckled before Hinata looked at the blonde's arms with her Byakugan active. Hinata could see the old scars on Naruto's arms, even the few she saw on his side, and knew that they were just faded enough to not be too noticeable. She then looked around Naruto's torso and had to hold back her thoughts as she observed Naruto's slightly built figure. She saw the seal that held the nine-tailed fox and old scars until something caught her eye. Naruto-kun? Hinata asked with authority in her voice as she lifted Naruto's borrowed shirt to reveal a long cut that was partially hidden due to it hiding behind the pants hem. What is that? Naruto gulped as he knew that he was caught as he said, I accidentally cut myself when I tripped. I tripped on a rug and a nail was sticking out and… Uzumaki. Hinata ordered as she held out her hand expectantly, give it to me. Now. Naruto paled as he reached inside his pants to pull out a wrapped cloth and placed it in Hinata's palm like a kid caught with a cookie before dinner. Hinata unwrapped the cloth to reveal a kunai knife as slight anger shone in her eyes. Where did you get this? Hinata asked gently as she knew that she and her father went to great lengths to keep sharp object away from the blonde. Naruto was silent for a moment when Hinata asked again, I'm going to ask nicely once more, please tell me where you got this, Naruto. Do I have to have father or even myself watch you without a single moment of privacy? I got it from Hanabi, Naruto said as he knew that that last question signaled that nice Hinata was done and angry Hinata was talking to him. I got it when she attacked me. I was able to pocket it during the confusion when Hanabi was about to go for another attack. Hinata sighed as she remembers disarming her sister with a few strikes to the wrist and mentally scolded herself for not having someone look for it and hide the weapon with the other sharp objects. Guess I may have to convince father to have Neji keep an eye on Naruto-kun when he bathes, Hinata thought as she let out a sigh, knowing that her cousin wasn't going to like the idea. Why, Naruto-kun? Hinata asked as she wrapped the kunai up before placing it inside her mesh shirt. We thought you were making progress, but here I find you purposely cutting yourself. I know your life was an easy one as just telling others that secret was difficult for you, but why? Hinata received silence until the blonde before her said, it helps me feel. Naruto saw that gentle tenderness return to Hinata's eyes as he continued, I feel I don't know relief. Relief that the cool warmth had let me ease the pain of all of this relief from all the shit I had to go through. Hinata completely understood what Naruto was getting at as she decided to let the blonde in on her own secret. Naruto-kun, said Hinata as she took the blonde's hand as she walked down the hall towards her room, follow me as I have something I wish to show you. Hinata led the blonde down the hall and ran into Neji as Hinata handed the branch member the wrapped cloth, instructing him to hand it to Hayashi post-haste before returning towards the room. Once inside, Hinata formed a hand seal as a green glow flashed through the room. What was that? Naruto asked in confusion. A special seal created by our ancestor that no one short of Kami would have to be in this room to see or hear what was going on. Hinata then removed her jacket, revealing her mesh shirt and bare pale arms. Whoa. 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 Said Naruto as he backed away, I don't think we should be doing that. Letting out another sigh, Hinata took Naruto's hand and have it feel the underside of her right arm. Naruto's skin crawled at the silky smoothness of the girl's arm until he felt something that didn't belong and looked to find a very thin and faintly colored scar. I was going through a lot of problems, Hinata began confessing her secret to Naruto. I was feeling my worst and I have had some thoughts myself, but that would only prove to them that I was weak. Even with Kurenai-sensei's words in love. It wasn't enough, so I tried to experiment. A tiny chuckle left Hinata's throat as she continued, I never knew such a cut could bleed so badly and the look of fear on Kurenai-sensei's face was something that embedded itself in my mind to never do this again along with the indescribable pain and fear. No one but Kurenai and myself know of this scar that stains my arm. The stain that I had caused. Sensei couldn't keep her eyes off of me for a second since then for a good while. Naruto looked at Hinata's eyes and saw fear in them as Hinata stared back. Questions were buzzing madly in his skull as Naruto kept asking why a girl like Hinata would mar her pearly skin like this. What were Kurenai's thoughts at that moment, and even wondered if it really does hurt like that instead of that cool warmth. It's ironic that I used that scar as a means to show that I am stronger than that, Hinata said as she saw the look in Naruto's eyes, that along with you are symbols for me to never back down and to not quit when there are still chances left. Aye. Hinata moved in and kissed Naruto on the lips as the blonde felt his face burning and his mind exploding before Hinata ended the kiss. The Hyuga giggled as she saw the stunned and awestruck look on Naruto's beet-red face, cheering that she had finally done it. She had kissed her dream boy. That Hyuga girl has done something that no one could ever do. The fox inside Naruto spoke to himself with a chuckle. She actually made Naruto speechless and she had done it with just a kiss. Hinata undid the seal in her room as she grabbed Naruto's hand and said, "We should probably see if father needs to see you about that kunai I had found." Naruto let Hinata lead him through the estate as his mind was still completely hazy from what had happened as only one thought was in his mind: how could he get another kiss like that? A few days had passed and Sakura was thinking about the deal that Shino Tenchi had given her. On the one hand, the Rosette thought as she weighed the options in her mind, if I take up Shino Tenchi's offer, Naruto will be back to his old self. With the exception that Naruto would be the Jinchuriki of an angel of death instead of the nine-tailed fox, inner Sakura said, that and we both know that someone's going to get screwed in that deal. Anything could happen as it would be someone else trying to kill themselves or even you becoming the Jinchuriki of the fox. Sakura blinked at that thought as Shino Tenchi never did say what would happen to the nine-tailed fox. Would it just vanish like that to some other place? Or would the angel of death seal it inside someone else? Sakura would get that ball of sunshine back, but at the price of someone else's future and maybe even life? But on the other hand, the Rosette thought as she looked at the other choice, I only have one chance left to show Naruto that I can be his friend and someone he can go to in his time of need. That will require a lot of work considering the damages, inner Sakura pointed out, but all that hard work would be either worth it as we get to have that lovable knucklehead back or be for naught if you screw up badly again. Sakura knew it wasn't going to be easy, but if everything works out if she refused, then things will be right with the world save for a few details. Sakura ran a hand across her face as she knew that she had to make a choice and that Shino Tenchi would obviously choose whatever choice would benefit him the most. I'm running out of time, Sakura thought to herself as the clock was ticking against her. I need to make sure that I am making the right choice with this. Hanabi was sitting in Naruto's apartment, staring at the dilapidated ceiling with tired, ringed eyes while she lay on the worn bed. She could feel her mind wearing down from all the paranoia, all the lack of sleep from nightmares, and all of the ramen that she had no choice but to eat. Hanabi groaned as she placed her hands over her tired eyes as the memories of getting kicked out, getting beaten, and even eating ramen as her 3 meals were burning inside her mind. I have to stay strong, I cannot falter, said Hanabi as she repeated her mantra, I have to stay strong, I cannot falter. But what's wrong with going back to way things were? Hanabi heard in her mind, back to being happy in Nechan's arms, feeling her warmth. Warmth of our mother? Hanabi tried to push that stray thought away, but it wouldn't go away, a festering wound. She is not my mother. Hanabi argued back as she ignored a twang of pain in her heart, she is a demon-loving bitch. Do you really think that? Hanabi heard in a tone of sadness and pain, do you really think about Hinata like that? Do you not love Hinata-san? Hanabi then grabbed the side of her head as she tried to stomp away that thought. The academy lied to us about the nine-tailed fox dying. Hanabi continued to argue, I will succeed where that failure of a Hokage had failed to do. Get out of my head. Hanabi knew that she was missing that warmth that Hinata was giving her. But that demon was taking it away from her. Naruto was taking away her Kasan. Even though she knew Hinata wasn't her real mother, Hanabi could feel the motherly love that her older sister would give her since their mother had died from illness. She knew that the elders were thinking of placing Hinata in the branch family and Hanabi was going to try and have Hinata be her personal servant. The same Hinata that had given her that love. Hanabi hugged her knees into her chest as all she could feel was the coldness that seemed to accompany the pain of loneliness. I am strong. ICC can and not falter, said Hanabi as tears began to roll down her eyes while she began her mantra. I am st strong, I cannot falter. Sniff him strong. I miss my Kasan. My Hinata Kasan. Naruto sat in Hinata's room looking at the kunai in his hands with confusion on his mind. He had just gotten through a meeting with Hayashi and Inoishi after it was revealed that Naruto had a kunai on him. After the conversation, Hayashi had decided to let Naruto hang on to the knife and said that if Naruto had loved Hinata as much as Hinata had loved him, then Naruto would know what to do with it. The blonde was fighting his confused mind as it didn't make sense letting a person on suicide watch hold on a blade. If I love Hinata-chan as much as she loved me, then I would know what to do with it. Naruto thought about what Hayashi had told him, but what am I supposed to do with this? Naruto looked at the ceiling as he let his mind drift towards Hinata and how she had confessed her love to him. She's very pretty and something about her just makes my heart rush, the blonde thought as a bright blush formed on his face. Then there was that kiss. I can't explain it but wow. Naruto's mind then went to the lone scar on Hinata's arm when the girl told him her own dark secret. She told me that she was afraid after cutting herself that first time, the blonde thought as the image of that small jagged pale scar appeared in his mind. I know it's not normal. But is it really that scary? Naruto placed the kunai on the nearby desk before laying on the bed as he ran his hands over his face. What the hell am I supposed to do? Naruto roared in his mind as it was buzzing madly in confusion. Just get some rest, Kit, the fox said inside Naruto's mind. The answer will come to you soon. I hope so, Naruto thought as he decided to get some sleep as he knew Neji was just standing outside. I really need to get this shit together. Night had fallen as Tsunade and Jiraiya were in Naruto's apartment where the Godame was healing some of Hanabi's injuries. I don't know if we can keep this going, Jiraiya, said Tsunade as she finished the last of Hanabi's wounds. If nothing is done about Hanabi's attitude towards Naruto, then the girl might die. Jiraiya let out a sigh as he placed a small cup of ramen on the table and said, she is starting to break as the Anbu have told me about how she was silently crying out to her Hinata-san. It shouldn't be too much longer. Tsunade let out a frustrated sigh of her own, careful as to not wake Hanabi and said, you better be fucking right as I'm not going to pay for a child's funeral. And I won't let that happen, Jiraiya thought as he prayed that if he can help change one person's view of the world, then Naruto might still have a chance to have a better. So that's it for today guys. If you like this story and want more then please subscribe and turn on the bell icon. Until then take care and goodbye.